It is our most basic necessity for life. Without it, we perish. With it, we can survive and prosper. We must have water. However, there is a water crisis in San Diego County. How serious? What is being done? And what does the future look like? In the next 30 minutes, water resources in San Diego County and planning for the future. Chairman Bill Horn will be your host as we examine this critical issue on Update San Diego next.
Hello, and thank you for joining me on this edition of Update San Diego. I'm your host, Supervisor Bill Horn, and the Sons of the Pioneers recorded that in 1934. 5 years later, the Guardian of the Water sculpture was dedicated here at the County Administration Building. A 22-ton block of granite from a lakeside quarry was delivered to a local artist, Donald Horde. He took 2 years to shape the block into the figure of a pioneer woman holding a water jug symbolic of San Diego's guardianship over one of our most precious resources, water. The fountain was restored in early 1996. However, in June of 2009, it was turned off to comply with the City of San Diego's Level 2 drought alert. The empty fountain is symbolic of the scarcity of water we have today. That's why I hosted a special conference on water resources in San Diego County and planning for the future. And here are the highlights of that session.
Up where I live as a grower, water is a lifeblood for us, and it's important to know what our future is. Hopefully the current crisis will be alleviated a little bit, and we'll have questions later, but I wanted to do this because when I heard you guys speak last time, a couple of you, I thought we should go more in depth in the water because water is such a big issue for us.
It's a pleasure being here this morning. My name is Scott Maloney. I'm with Poseidon Resources. I'm here to talk to you about the Carlsbad Seawater Desalination Project. In the last 10 years, California started to turn its attention to the Pacific Ocean and seawater desalination due to drought conditions, regulatory constraints on water resources, and population growth. The state's water plan update has identified there's 300,000 acre-feet of seawater desalination and development today. An acre-foot's an acre of water, a foot deep, about enough water for 2 average families for a year. There's approximately 20 seawater desalination projects in various stages of development in California, and the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California has identified a need for 150,000 acre-feet of desal in its service territory by the year 2020, and the Water Authority's planning documents have identified a need for 56,000 acre-feet a year of desalination by 2015. This is an aerial photo of our location. I don't know if you can see the little pointer there. This is I-5 here. This is Cannon Road here, Carlsbad Boulevard running west along the ocean. This is a photo of the Encina Power Station in the city of Carlsbad. That's our site host. This body of water is the Agua Hedionda Lagoon. This is the inner bay, and this is the forebay. Agua Hedionda in English means stinking water. And that's because in its natural historic state, this body of water, this area was a mudflat. And in the 1950s, the power station dredged the lagoon and created this permanent opening you can see here north of the power plant to create a source of cooling water. This power plant is one of 30 power plants along the coast of California that uses seawater as part of the electrical generating process. When this power plant is in full operation, which it hasn't been in recent years, this entire body of water, the entire inner and outer lagoon, will turn over in a 24-hour period. That's how much water will flow through that power plant to create electricity. As a result, the lagoon operates more like an offshore reef, where we have a very robust marine environment. And for those of you that are familiar with this lagoon and part of the county, you could see somewhat from this picture these black submerged tanks here in the water. This is the Carlsbad Aqua Farm, responsible for putting more than 1 million pounds of oysters and shellfish in the local market every year. Over here to the left of these white tents is the Hub SeaWorld Fish Hatchery. It's mitigation for the San Onofre Nuclear Power Plant. They have raised and released into the wild over 1 million white sea bass, endangered white sea bass. This is the YMCA Aquatic Park right here, and you can see recreational activity in the inner bay. The point is this entire recreational and environmental jewel would not be here today if it was not for the power plant and its stewardship of the lagoon. This is an aerial photo showing you computer simulation of what our project will look like. It's about 6 or 7 acres of property. Back in the day, the power plant used to burn oil. It no longer burns oil, so we are replacing some of the vacated oil storage tanks with a state-of-the-art reverse osmosis seawater desalination plant. The plant has the capacity to produce 56,000 acre-feet a year. That's 50 million gallons per day, or enough water for 300,000 people or 112,000 households. It's about roughly 9–10% of the demand in San Diego County. It's very high-quality water, twice the quality of imported water. It's on the scale of bottled water quality. We're not proposing to pump water out of the lagoon or out of the ocean. We are proposing to reuse the power plant's discharge. It takes 2 gallons of seawater to make 1 gallon of drinking water. So we'll divert 100 million gallons every day of the power plant's discharge to our treatment plant, turn that into 50 million gallons of high-quality drinking water, which will then be piped out to the existing infrastructure that the San Diego County Water Authority operates. In addition to the desal plant, we'll be building approximately a 10-mile pipeline that will move the water from Carlsbad in the facility to the Water Authority's second aqueduct. We'll put the water in the Twin Oaks treatment plant, will be commingled with existing imported water, and then will serve all the member agencies of the San Diego County Water Authority. We have secured all the permits and entitlements necessary to start construction and operate the plant. If the schedule holds, that means we should be able to start Phase 2 construction this summer. It takes about 30 months to build and test the full-scale facility, so 30 months after start of construction, we will be operational. I think it's important for us to emphasize that seawater desalination is not a silver bullet. We are not going to desalt our way out of the water supply crisis in California and San Diego. I think it would be technologically infeasible, and I think it would be bad public policy to try to do so. I think the road to water reliability salvation starts with conservation, and I think we have a very good story to tell, not only in California, but San Diego specifically, about what we're doing on the conservation front. The second leg of the water reliability stool is recycling. I think the days of using water once and dumping it out to the ocean are over. We need to use every gallon of water twice, 3 times, 4 times. And finally, the third leg of the water reliability stool is new supply. And what we've been able to demonstrate over the last decade is that seawater desalination is both environmentally and financially feasible as a new water supply in San Diego.
Thank you, Scott. I visited the desal plant in Orange County, that huge plant they have there. They're recycling their water and putting it back in the aquifer. I would like to see us go to that kind of phase for the water we are throwing away after we use it. So I don't know what it takes. I know how long has your permitting process been? About 10 years?
It's about 10 years. In Orange County, you're talking about the groundwater replenishment system, which treats wastewater and puts it back in the aquifer. It is almost the identical treatment process as reverse osmosis seawater desalination, except for the water they're treating has different constituents in it. That project, from what I understand, also took a very long time to permit because it was the first of its kind in California, just like our desal plant will be the first of its kind.
With desalination not being a silver bullet to the solution of the water crisis, the need is to identify new sources of water, finding ways to retain more runoff from rainwater and improve their distribution system. There is a possibility that there is more water in San Diego's backcountry. It's just that we don't know.
We know that there are places where there is 1,000 feet of water and 1,500 feet of water, so much more. Right, so right here you could see right away that a particular site you could have 2 or 3 times more water than the average prediction would tell you. Right, so this is just the same thing as schematic representation of that. So that's just a typical mountain like area. It doesn't matter where it is or what it is. The point here is that if you assume that you only have 500 feet of saturated rock, this is how much water you could expect, right? But if you know that your measurements tell you that you actually have 1,000 feet of saturated rock, you have twice the amount of water, 3 times, and so forth, right? So to determine how much water you have, you need to drill wells. You cannot go with general assumptions. In hydrological lingo, it is called the hydrologic cycle. So that's how water moves throughout the system, from the clouds, it rains, gets to the ground, and some of it gets in the subsurface and recharges our groundwater. And so all it is really this simple balance. So the recharge is what gets into our bank account. Using generic values for county-wide values, we would overestimate losses to evapotranspiration by 28,000 acre-feet per year. We would overestimate runoff by 10,000 acre-feet per year. So that's 38,000 acre-feet per year that doesn't get underground. You have to collect data if you want to make predictions that you can reasonably rely on. And you cannot downscale things. You cannot use a very large-scale model to say something about a particular field, a particular site. To strike this balance, you have to collect data. The more you know about a particular field, a particular sub-basin, the more accurate your predictions will be.
The long-term strategies the Water Authority is taking to overcome the challenges, the water challenges we face. In the past, generally we had a surplus of water, not always, but in general we did. Now we're seeing new supplies are more scarce, where in the past, in looking at water supplies, we had our traditional technologies, dams, aqueducts, pipelines. I think now we're looking at the newer technologies, as you just saw, in seawater desalination and potable reuse. Supply development, therefore, has become more complex and more expensive, and we're seeing that now in the rate increases that folks are experiencing. And now we also are experiencing more uncertainty due to climate change and in supply reliability due to regulations, regulatory restrictions on our water use. I've got an example of one of the projects. This is important to maintaining reliable infrastructure is our pipeline relining project, where we line our large diameter pipelines and be able to extend the life of the 82 miles of imported water pipeline by 100 years. So again, critical to ensuring reliability is not just bringing new water in or developing new supplies, but also taking care of our current infrastructure.
I want to talk about imported water and agriculture in North San Diego County. Prior to the introduction of imported water into San Diego County in the late 1940s and early 50s, agriculture was pretty much limited to areas that had local supplies, and which were few. With the completion of the first San Diego aqueduct in the late 1940s and the formation of several municipal water districts in North County, Valley Center, Rainbow, Uwima, North County agriculture expanded rapidly and flourished. Local agriculture has faced very stiff import competition through implementation of NAFTA. Ag has been burdened by increased water quality regulations and other regulations, labor and so forth. And since 2005-2006, ag has experienced an 80% plus increase in the cost of water. North County permanent tree crop ag is in rapid decline. Some people are hanging on, but many of the growers, they're not even bothering to stump their trees anymore. They're just calling the water district and telling us to shut off their meters. I don't believe, I'm not a grower, but I believe that permanent tree crop ag is not sustainable at the current prices and certainly not at the projected prices that we see into the future.
Clearly, this ostrich effect, quote here, that the excessive spending at the legislative level and the lack of real aggressive public leadership has been a major crisis for water since the construction of the state water system and the implementation of the water plans back in the 50s. Until the delta is fixed and more reliability and diversification of the water portfolio, we won't achieve a sense of reliability that can be predicted and utilized for planning and resource management. What is also critical to fixing the delta, and Dana spoke about this in her presentation, is really going to be the 2012 water bond issue in front of the voters. The delay in that vote, while unfortunate, also was constrained by the general national economy. But in 2012, it'll be critical to achieve a successful outcome to that water bond in order to fix the delta and build a greater amount of supply reliability. The untapped resource is full reclamation of all treated wastewater that's used for agriculture, outdoor irrigation, and conceivably in the very near future, potable reuse. And what you have to do to achieve some of that full reclamation is to get past that yuck factor and support the development of reclaimed water for such uses. Groundwater replenishment, are we doing enough? Because we have limitations in what we can do, the majority of the region, and there is a typo there, majority of the region cannot provide for large-scale groundwater storage because of the physical soil conditions. The consumers have bought into the real need to do the water conservation, turning off those outdoor irrigation systems and managing their water. The recent rainfalls, however, don't really do much to affect the overall reduction that's required because the major storage of water supplies are well located outside of our San Diego region. We will be able, though, through some delta fix, provide a greater certainty, but the current uncertainty of future supplies show that our customers really need to alter their views about water and its uses, and more specifically to the price tag for the real value, the true value of water in our economy, our way of life, and the need for a safe, reliable supply.
Gary, I thank you. Point out what has been happening to agriculture in North County over the last 5 years, 10 years. We're basically going bye-bye. We cannot afford $1,800 acre-foot water, period. And we tried years ago to recycle Escondido's water, and we used that on avocado groves and killed the 3 groves. It's, Gary pointed out, it's the metal in the water that you've got to get rid of before you put all that TDS back into the groundwater. It's wet, but it also is poisonous, so just because of the chlorides. A lot of them has been mentioned of the Orange County plant. I visited that twice in the last, 5 years. They do have the Santa Ana River, but I think that is a plus for them, but I think it's a challenge for us because I think we have to figure out a way to distribute this recycled water, clean water, back into our groundwater and let it flow back down here. And it might be new pipelines, what have you, but some years ago when the Vista Irrigation, who's not here, had to cut that big V in their dam in Lake Henshaw and dump 70% of their water. That used to be a huge reservoir years ago with islands all over the place, and as you look at the map, you see the size of their aquifer. That lake basically covered the whole thing. It was a huge lake when I was a young kid, and I just wonder what the cost of putting that back together might be. Lake Hodges, does the County Water Authority own, is that Lake Hodges?
That's the city of San Diego's.
City of San Diego. Years ago when I was a young kid, they used to have a wooden bridge across there before they had the 15. That lake went all the way back up San Pasqual. And I've always asked the question, instead of letting all those trees grow in there, why didn't they dredge that lake? The soil that has been brought down in there could be, you could make a ton of money just on pulling that soil out and selling it because it's got a lot of fertilizer in there. Why they don't dredge that thing and triple the capacity is another issue. Part of the problem is I think we have a lot of facilities, wastewater and stuff that are too separated. I think, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board, they are an obstacle as opposed to a friend here. And I think they need to get on board here because this is a solution for the region, and the region needs to take advantage of this, and we need to make something good out of this rather than just have it, start. It just kills me that we're pumping water out of the ocean. One of the things they prohibit is live stream discharge, and I know some of this water you don't want to drink anymore, but a lot of our nice little waterways, because of development, have been dried up and they're now dry canyons. And the only time they ever flow is when it rains. And if we had some of this water of good quality thrown back into the streams, we get some of that wildlife and stuff back. thank you very much, all of you, for participating. I hope to have this again sometime this year after we do the general plan. I would like us to get some of these municipalities that have these plants in here, at least thinking about solving the problem, because I think that's where our future is. So thank you all.
Please let the record show that it was Bill Horn from Valley Center that said the regional board was an obstacle and not Gary Arant from Valley Center.
Oh, I'm very proud of that. That's fine.
Supervisor Horn.
They're a
Chairman
problem.
Horn.
We've run out of time, and after seeing today's program, I think we all have a little better idea of what needs to be done before we run out of water. If you'd like more information about the water conference, please visit my website at www.billhorn.com. I'm Supervisor Bill Horn, and I'll see you on the next edition of Update San Diego.
The shadows sway and seem to say, tonight we'll pray for water, cool water.